We've got a showdown of sophomore QBs tonight on the second Sunday Night Football of the 2025 Sips and Simulation season. The battle of Kirk Cousins' successors, J.J. Mccarthy leads the Vikings against Michael Penix of the Falcons. Will McCarthyism sweep the U.S. once more, or is the Falcons' big Penix energy too much to handle? We'll see in the simulation, but first we have to make our drink a Purple Falcon.
All right, second week in a row doing the Vikings, which means I'm really burning through my list of purple cocktails. Thankfully, the Vikings have been a pretty easy team to get ideas for between the team name, the color, the state, and all of those different areas kind of not really overlapping much. I've actually got all of their primetime games covered for this season. Atlanta's been similarly easy, which is really good because they've got a whopping 5 primetime games this season. So there's a lot to cover there. But starting off with Atlanta, fittingly enough, their first drink in this series is going to be none other than the Falcon. Okay, now I am technically cheating a little bit with this drink because it was not created in Atlanta. The Falcon was created by Johnny Sweat of Papillon Bistro and Bar in New York City for Super Bowl 51. Falcons fans, I'm sorry. Now, beyond that origin story, there's not really a story behind why this drink has the ingredients it does. If I had to guess, it's that the drink is kind of going as like a riff on a jungle bird, but the ingredient lists are so different that I can't really assert that with any level of confidence. The spec for this drink is vodka, pomegranate liqueur, lime juice, agave syrup, served in a highball, and then topped off with ginger beer. There's also the possibility that they just had this red cocktail sort of ready to go and then named it the Falcon as a marketing gimmick. Who knows? I wasn't there when this drink was created. Now, Minnesota's drink, the Purple Rain, has a much deeper connection than just its color and was actually created in Minneapolis. Okay, I say that, but like 90% of drinks, there's not really a solid origin for this drink. Besides the fact that it was created for Prince and as a tribute to Purple Rain.
Purple rain, purple rain.
The stories generally agree that it was created around 1984 as a tribute to the song of the same name, but stories differ in terms of who exactly and where exactly created it. There's some I've seen, which I personally don't believe in, that said Prince himself created it at his First Avenue club. But that just seems a little bit far-fetched to me. I think it's more likely that a local bartender in the Minneapolis scene whipped this up, and then it just sort of immediately proliferated throughout the surrounding area. The most common spec, and the one that I will be carrying into our custom drink, the Purple Falcon, is vodka, blue curacao, cranberry juice, pineapple juice, grenadine, and lime juice. In this spec, the combination of blue curacao and grenadine, and also the cranberry juice, is what gives it that very distinct purple color that gives the drink its name. Other variants call for Chambord or Concord grape juice to get that purple color. Both our inspirations have a pretty long list of ingredients, and as a record, the Purple Falcon sets our new record for most ingredients in a drink with 6. One point that I went back and forth on a lot while designing this drink was whether to serve it up in my comically large martini glasses or down in the highball. Serving it in the highball would let me top it off with ginger beer and do more of a true sort of fusion of the two drinks. But considering all the highball drinks I've done already, I decided to omit that and just serve it up in the martini glass. That being said, I do have a can of ginger beer on hand, so after we make this, I might try to top it off a little bit and just see how that changes the flavors. All right, so our final spec for this drink. Take your shaker, start with our cube of ice. My last cube, I'm gonna have to freeze some more after this. We're going to start off with 1.5 ounces of vodka. I have a pour spout for this. I really should put it on, but I keep being lazy and forgetting about it, so for now it is what it is. That is our base spirit. Then we're going to add 3/4 of an ounce of our blue curacao. This is one of those liqueurs that just kind of like lives in the back of my bar for most of the time, honestly. But occasionally you need it, and when you need it, boy, is it blue. It's, poof. When you need a drink to be blue, trust no other. To go along with that, 3/4 of an ounce of our pomegranate liqueur. This is Poma. It's the most common pomegranate liqueur if you go into a liquor store and try to find it. It's really nice. It does kind of taste like alcoholic pom, honestly. And I know what alcoholic pomegranate juice tastes like because when I was in college, I fermented some and made little pomegranate beer, or pomegranate wine, I guess technically. Okay, enough yapping. 3/4 of an ounce of pineapple juice. Make sure that's all shaken up so that we don't lose anything. I just realized this might have a bit of a head to it from the pineapple juice. Ooh, that looks purple. That looks purple in there. We're on the right track. 1/2 ounce of Grenadine. How to Drink actually just had an interesting video come out which covers the history of Grenadine and how sort of what we think of as Grenadine has shifted over the years, right? This is obviously a very sort of sweet syrup, but other forms of Grenadine are more like traditional pomegranate syrup. Really interesting video, should go check it out. I'll try to remember to leave a link to it in the top card there. And then finally, 1/2 ounce of our lime juice, just a bit more acidity with all of the sweetness that we've got in this drink. Alright, shake that in our shaker, get it all chilled, get it all mixed. Alright, crack that open. Such a satisfying crack. Now let's see, moment of truth. What's the color? Oh, look at that, that's beautiful. Look at that purple. Look how purple it is. Yes. It does have a little bit of a head from the pineapple juice. Look at the lime wheel. Beautiful. All right. And that is our purple Falcon. Let's give it a taste. Ooh. Okay. Wow. I really had no idea what to expect going into this drink. I was really worried that it would be over sweet, and it is like right on that edge. This is definitely an approachable drink. It's very sweet, but I think it's just barely on the opposite end of being too sweet. I don't think it quite crosses that line. Yeah, I think you get enough tartness from the pineapple juice, from the lime juice, from the pomegranate liqueur, that all of the sugar that's also in those things and in the blue curacao aren't too much for the drink. Honestly, the lime wedge garnish is also incredible because I think you need that extra nose of acid to sort of tamp things down a little bit. Oh yeah, and the color is so immaculate. I don't know if it's showing up well because I gotta get a better lighting setup, but you'll see the still pictures of this, and this drink is just glorious. I almost feel bad adding some ginger beer to it, but the curiosity in me has to know. I gotta know how that changes this drink. So we're just gonna add a little bit, sort of to top it off like a float. Let's see. Does that mix in or does that sort of separate? No, it looks like that mixes in. I am glad to have these comically large martini glasses because it gives me the freedom to just sort of do things like that. Like, a coupe could never. A coupe is a normal glass. This is not a normal glass. I mean, the nose obviously changes. Instead of being the sort of sweetness from all of the drink materials, it's now that sort of sharpness from the ginger beer. Let's see. Oh, that was such a good idea. Holy shit. Oh my goodness. Okay, wow. Everything I said previously about how it was too sweet, right out the door. It's door. Sweetness, door. That is so good. Holy shit. Okay. Oh, I think you need the ginger beer. The ginger beer in that cuts through everything else. You definitely don't want to add too much because there is a risk of it sort of drowning out that really complicated interplay of flavors that you have going on there. But it's needed. You need that dryness, you need that sharpness to sort of cut through the syrupiness of everything else in this drink. I think that ginger beer is a mandatory ingredient, but I would advise to just do it like a float on top. You could do it in a highball, but I think you don't want to do this like a long drink. Like this should be served up in something like this, where you can just get like a little bit of that sort of sharpness of the ginger on the top. I don't think you want to make it like a Collins where it's like a really sort of long drink. You could, but I think at that point the ginger would just become too much, and you'd want to do something more like a ginger ale at that point, like a strong ginger ale, not like a Canada Dry, but like something stronger. But just a little float of that ginger beer on top is cutting through things beautifully. And it's so pretty. All right, well, drink in hand, let's get into the simulations.
All right, Minnesota gets the ball first, which feels fitting for JJ's first regular season home game. And of course, the Falcons bring a housewarming gift for him, a welcome to the NFL moment as he is strip-sacked by Onyemata. Atlanta recovers the fumble as well. The Falcons put a lot into improving their abysmal pass rush, and it looks like it's paying off. Of course, the Vikings defense had to make sure that their guest was received warmly as well, wrapping up Penix on the very next play for a loss of 6. They followed that up with another big sack on 3rd down, sealing the 3-and-out for Atlanta and giving Minnesota the ball back. With Jordan Addison suspended these first 3 games, the Vikings have to turn elsewhere for their deep threat, and they find it in rookie Ty Felton. The Maryland Terp hauls in this 58-yard touchdown to open the scoring and put the Vikings up 7-0. After the Falcons' drive stalled out at the 38-yard line, Young Ho Koo had the chance to get the Falcons on the board, but missed the 55-yarder wide right. The Vikings pounced on this opportunity, moving the ball down the field before McCarthy finds a wide-open Hawkinson to go up 14-0. Like deja vu, the Falcons' drive stalls out again, this time at the 30-yard line, which gives Koo the opportunity to redeem himself, making this 47-yard field goal to cut the deficit to 11 with less than 2 minutes to go in the half. On the Vikings' 2-minute drill attempt, JJ is strip-sacked again, and despite his right tackle recovering the football untouched, the play is blown dead due to the holy roller rule. Brief rules tangent for those confused. Basically, the Raiders were playing the Chargers in 1978, down 6 with the ball on the Chargers' 14-yard line and 10 seconds left on the clock. As Raiders QB Ken Stabler is being sacked, he fumbles the ball forward, where running back Pete Banaszak dives for it, knocks the ball forwards again towards the end zone, finally reaching tight end Dave Casper, who bobbled it a few yards further before falling on it for the game-winning touchdown. Now, an intentional forward fumble was already considered a forward pass in the rulebook, which would have made this an illegal play, but proving intentionality with regards to fumbles is really difficult. As a result, the NFL appended the rules so that the only player who can advance a fumble on 4th down or after the 2-minute warning is the player who initially fumbled the ball. That's the relatively rare rule that we saw here, as Brian O'Neill is down as soon as he recovers this fumble, despite being literally untouched. Alright, back to the action. One thing that is a theme in this matchup is how absolutely atrocious the Madden AI is at situational football. Our first example, within field goal range with 0 timeouts and 21 seconds left in the half, JJ connects with JJ in the middle of the field where he is promptly tackled, after which everybody just kind of sits around, no urgency to get another play off or spike the ball until the clock runs out. Vikings leaving 3 points on the field and settling for only being up 14-3 at the half. Back from the half, this screen to Bijan falls away short of the sticks, leading to Koo hitting another field goal to make this a 1-score game. Neither offense was really lighting up the scoreboard in this game, but the Falcons were clicking nicely in the 4th quarter, as this counter run opens up a huge hole for Bijan, letting him pick up 24 yards all the way down to the 27-yard line. Falcons cap off this drive with another Madden staple, the standing in the back of the end zone jump ball touchdown, which Bijan hauls in without much difficulty. On the 2-point conversion, Penix finds Drake London on the 5-yard in, and all of a sudden we've got a tied game. The Vikings go 3 and out on their following possession. However, the Falcons also failed to score, giving the Vikes the ball back with all 3 timeouts and just under 2 minutes left in the game. And with the game-winning field goal within sight, the Madden AI again turns into Matt Eberflus, running the ball up the middle with 20 seconds left, which immediately does get them all the way down to the 14-yard line with 16 seconds left, but again, no timeouts left, the clock runs down before the ball is snapped, and we've got our second overtime of the week. On the first overtime possession for the Falcons, we have an absolutely beautiful sight to behold. A 44-yard, go-ahead Kyle Pitts touchdown. As I mentioned last video, new 2025 rules means that the Vikings get a chance to answer, and they moved the ball well, making it all the way to the Falcons' doorstep before JJ sails this behind his receiver and directly to a Falcons safety, killing their comeback hopes and securing a 21-14 Falcons victory. I think this game is a really good example of one where the quarterback stats really don't tell the full story. On the face of it, both of these sophomore QBs had solid games. 2 touchdowns apiece, 300 yards for JJ, 226 for Penix. However, what isn't reflected in these stats is the sacks that both of them took, which really put these offenses behind schedule and limited their scoring, only putting up 28 combined points through 4 quarters. Flipping over to the rushing stats, we see some really solid performances here as well. Actually a bit of a below average performance for Bijan, though that's only by Bijan standards. He averaged 85 yards per game last season and didn't rush for under 90 in the last 6 games of the season. Interestingly, we see really normal quarterback rushing numbers, a touch inflated for Penix, but well within reason, nothing like the Mike Vick numbers that he was putting up last week. Over at receiving stats, it's a similar story to the rushing numbers, a below average performance for Justin Jefferson, but only if you're measuring by Justin Jefferson standards. Got good performances out of Hawkinson and Naylor, obviously Kyle Pitts had his big touchdown as well. Moving deeper down the depth chart, we see Ty Felton, he had only 2 catches, but boy did he make the most of them. 66 yards and a touchdown for the rookie. Now with the Monte Carlo stats, we see something that I think might be a first for this series. More quarterback rushing yards in the Monte Carlo sim than in the Madden sim. JJ McCarthy, 16 yards in the Monte Carlo, 10 yards in Madden. Look, I know it's not a lot, but it's still notable. Fewer rushing yards for the starting running backs as well, as the Monte Carlo sim shifts that workload over to the backup running backs. Also, as this was run after the Madden sim, you can see that Adam Thielen has been added back to the Vikings active roster. Welcome back to Minnesota, Adam. Finally, the Monte Carlo score distribution. The most common outcome was a 14-14 draw between these two teams, which is what the Madden sim had at the end of the 4th quarter. The second most likely outcome is a 21-14 Falcons victory, which is what the Madden sim ended in. Averaging out all of the 10,000 simulated games, we arrive at a final score of Atlanta 19, Minnesota 17. Do you agree with the simulations, or do you envision a different future? I'm looking forward to hearing your thoughts down in the comments. As a reminder, our drink for this matchup is the wonderfully complex, sweet and sharp Purple Falcon. If you decide to make it, please let me know what you think, and I'd love to hear your suggestions for what drink should be your team's representative. Stay curious, stay thirsty, and I'll see you in the next one.